Abdul Saad, transformational coach at Vital Mind Coaching. Check me out at vitalmind.com.au or just search for Vital Mind Coaching on Facebook. And today it's a shorter video where I want to address a facet of the empath personality and identity. And to get straight to it without waffling too much, the core aim of this video is to communicate the following message. If you are an empath and you identify with the information that I've previously put out in my videos on the empath personality, the empath archetype, the whole empath narcissist dynamic, the point I want to underscore in this video is that the focus of a lot of the videos and material about empaths online and in published books is very focused or hyper-focused on one facet of the empath identity. And that is your interpersonal identity, what I call your interpersonal identity, your relationship identity. You could also call it your emotional identity. But if you're an empath, you actually have 4 identities, and that's something that I'm going to be covering in future videos and will be the foundation of a course which I will be releasing later on this year, which is understanding and integrating the 4 facets of the empath personality and the empath archetype. In this video, I want to just underscore the point that so much of the material about empaths hyper focuses on the empath's relationship identity. That is, the identity the empath has in relationship to others, in relationship to a difficult person in their life, in relation to a narcissistic partner, past or present, in relation to their family, in relation to their mother or father. And we seem to take this for granted, that this somehow is the only identity that an empath has, an interpersonal or relational or emotional identity. But in a way, this underscores the very problem that the empath has, is that the empath has failed or falls short, failed is probably too harsh a term, has fallen short in developing their own integrated, unified sense of self outside of a sense of self in the context of their relationships, their relationship to another. And the problem this creates for empaths with the interpersonal identity being their only identity, meaning I don't know who I am outside of a relationship. I don't know whether I'm loved or not unless I'm in a relationship. I don't know what my needs are unless I'm in a relationship, is that this keeps the empath in a mode which I call being other referencing, where the empath really doesn't have a coherent internal sense of self when they're operating at lower levels of maturity. And this interpersonal identity of the empath, which is such a focus of the YouTube space around empaths, for example, empaths and narcissists, empaths in relationships, means that the empath gets locked into seeing themselves through the eyes of others and how others treat them. And this creates what are called polarities or positionalities or dichotomies, where it's all about myself in relation to the other, how the other has treated me, how the other has mistreated me. And like I said, I only know my sense of self, I'm only awake to my sense of self in relationship to the other. So what that means is I'm at the mercy of the other. I'm at the mercy of the environment and the people in my environment. And depending on how they treat me, it will determine how I perceive myself, how I experience myself, how I experience the world. And this places empaths in a really precarious position, because most people are not going to be able to accurately mirror you. And frankly, that's not the job of people. And the whole problem with the whole empath narcissist dynamic is empaths are often so starving for mirroring that this attracts narcissistic individuals who are in the honeymoon or infancy stage of in this case, a romantic relationship. The narcissistic individual really gets the mirroring right. So when we are so focused on seeing and talking about empaths through their interpersonal identity, which is only one facet of your identity, there are 3 others in the model that I've developed. This keeps the empath stuck in polarization and dualistic patterns of I'm either loved or unloved. I'm either the victim and the other person is the persecutor. It's love, it's hate, it's good versus evil. And this dynamic where we're just so focused on the empath's relational, interpersonal, or emotional identity really presupposes that outside of a relationship that's working well, the empath has no identity. And if the empath can't somehow find a relationship, in this case, let's say an intimate or romantic relationship that works well for them, that mirrors them, that feeds them, then they have no identity and they're doomed to be either alone or lonely or miserable or forever in a state of yearning and seeking. And I do not believe that this is true. The interpersonal identity of an empath, the emotional or relational identity, needs to come into balance in the context of the other 3 identities, which I'll be talking about in future videos. So that's the core point of the video today, is that you are more than your relationships. Your identity fundamentally is not determined by your relationships, your relationship history, by your interpersonal dynamics. What I would say though is that your interpersonal history, your relationship history, and the patterns that you find yourself getting into in relationships are giving you clues to where you need to work internally at a deeper level on your core identity so that you can have more fulfilling relationships. So you are more than your relationships. You are more than your interpersonal identity.